The Saturday of the Miami Grand Prix was totally crazy and has caused a big fight between many drivers and the FIA after some weird decisions during the sprint race. This all started with Fernando Alonso saying that he thinks the Miami Grand Prix weekend shows how where you're from matters when the FIA decides who gets in trouble. He wants to talk to FIA President Mohammed bin Sulayem about his worries. But this wasn't the only weird decision during this weekend. And here's something important. Lewis Hamilton was part of almost all of them. So Alonso, who complained really loudly this year about the punishments he got in the Australian Grand Prix and the Chinese Grand Prix sprint, said he felt like they were picking on him after Lewis Hamilton didn't get punished for a crash on the first lap of the Miami sprint. Hamilton dove down the inside of Turn 1 and Alonso crashed with his teammate Lance Stroll, who was coming from the outside. Because of this chain reaction, Stroll and McLaren's Lando Norris had to quit the race, while Alonso and Hamilton's Mercedes teammate, George Russell, had to fight from the back of the pack when someone asked if the FIA should punish Hamilton. Alonso said, "We'll see what they decide. I guess they won't decide anything because he's not Spanish. But I think he ruined the race for a few people, especially Norris, who had a very fast car and was out because of that crash." Alonso said that since he got penalties in recent races, he didn't want to take any chances when trying to pass other cars once he was near the back. "Maybe today I didn't get punished, but I always get punished," he said. "Today the same thing happened. I was behind someone and I could maybe take a risk and pass him, but logically I don't take the risk to avoid being punished. So I tried to finish the race, which is 19 laps, and go back to the team to talk about the changes." Alonso said that the sprint race was basically like a test session for him and the team, helping them understand tire wear for the main Grand Prix. "We didn't have any interest in the sprint race," he said. "We were just going to check tire wear and things for tomorrow, and in the end we managed it. For us it's like a free practice, it's not really a race." For several races, Aston Martin has been worried about how some of the FIA race officials' decisions are affecting its drivers. Alonso got a penalty in Australia for possibly dangerous driving after he slowed down in a really extreme way for a turn, which caused a crash for George Russell's Mercedes that was following behind. In China, Alonso was punished again for making sideways contact with Carlos Sainz in the sprint race, while Stroll was fined for sliding into the back of Daniel Ricciardo under the safety car. Decisions that team manager Mike Crack found frustrating and unfair. In the Miami sprint, the Spanish driver was on the receiving end of Lewis Hamilton's aggressive charge down the inside at the start of the race, which caused a four-car crash involving his teammate Lance Stroll and McLaren's Lando Norris. Hamilton was later cleared by the FIA, and their published decision said, "From the video evidence it appeared that there were at least 3 collisions that happened. The first between cars 14, Alonso, and 18, Stroll, and then between car 44, Hamilton, and car 14, Alonso, and finally between car 18, Stroll, and car 4, Norris. While it appeared to us that the incidents began with cars 14 and 18, the sudden and fast arrival of car 44 contributed to the various collisions. However, we were not able to identify one or more drivers who were completely or mostly to blame for the various collisions or any one of them." The officials also said that their judgment was affected by F1's existing policy of being more forgiving for first-lap accidents than for those on later laps of the race. Alonso's opinion stayed the same after the Grand Prix qualifying session. Later that day, "I had to open the gap which led to contact with Stroll because Hamilton was coming from the inside without control of the car. If I do that, for sure I get the penalty," he complained. And he said that he still believed his first claim. Yeah, sure. I do feel that nationality matters and I will speak with Mohammed bin Sulayem with the FIA, whatever. I need to make sure that there is not anything wrong with nationality or anything that can influence any decision. Not only for me, but also for the future generation of Spanish drivers. They need to be protected. But these actions and strong words from Alonso are only half the story. After this all happened on lap 1, Hamilton was in a huge fight with Magnussen for the rest of the race, which resulted in way too many close moments that did result in a lot of penalties. Kevin Magnussen, thinks his 4 Miami Grand Prix Formula One sprint race penalties were well-deserved for his stupid tactics against Lewis Hamilton, but he believes his actions saved Hayes points. Magnussen got 3 10-second time penalties for frequently leaving the track and getting an advantage, as well as a 5-second penalty and a black and white warning flag for going over track limits during Saturday afternoon's 19-lap race at Hard Rock Stadium. The officials called him for alleged unsportsmanlike actions. His tricks all happened against Hamilton while they were trailing Nico Hülkenberg, who went on to score 2 points for Haas in 7th position as Hamilton was delayed by Magnussen's tactics. These included bypassing the circuit's tight chicane and twice sliding off track while battling Hamilton, once barging into the Mercedes' right side. All the penalties were well-deserved, Magnussen said after the race. No doubt about it. But I had to play the game again. I was in a very good position behind Nico there at the beginning of the race. I gained a lot of positions. Was up in 8th place and protecting well from Lewis because I had DRS from Nico and had good pace. But then Nico cut the chicane and I lost the DRS on lap 6 in an incident that was not investigated. Nico could have given that back to give me the DRS to protect, because then we would have easily been 7th and 8th. Instead, I was really vulnerable to Lewis, and we started fighting like crazy. I started using these stupid tactics, which I don't like doing, he added. But at the end of the day, I did my job as a team player. Nico scored his points because I got that gap for him. Lewis and Tsunoda couldn't catch him. Not the way I like to go racing at all, but it was what I had to do today. Lewis Hamilton praised Kevin Magnussen for admitting that his super defensive stupid tactics in Miami's Formula One sprint race were motivated by a desire to help his team. I mean, it's really honest of him. I think it's pretty cool, Hamilton sighed. We had a good race. It was a little bit on the edge in some places, but that is what I love. I love racing hard, so for me it wasn't really frustrating or anything. That is obviously what you do to work as a team, so bravo. The officials called Magnussen for suspected unsportsmanlike conduct, and this resulted in the officials planning to discuss a potential change in the use of Formula One penalties after clearing Kevin Magnussen of suspected unsportsmanlike behavior. In the sprint race, according to the official report, the driver honestly explained that he believed he was allowed to race with car 44 in the way that he did, and that he was willing to accept what he considered to be standard penalties that would have been given to him for any rule breaking that happened while he was battling for a position. He was also of the view that building a gap between himself and the cars ahead was perfectly within the rules, and it was not uncommon for a driver to try to help his teammate during a race by doing so. He did not at any point think that what he was doing was wrong or that it was in any way unsportsmanlike. He pointed out that the officials would typically not make the penalties worse for repeat offenses. The officials found that there was no clear evidence of an intention to behave in a way that can be said to be unsportsmanlike, and that no further punishment should be taken against Magnussen because of the high standard required for judging unsportsmanlike behavior. However, the report made it clear that the officials disagreed with the way car 20 was driven, given Magnussen's repeated rule breaking. The report said that discussions will take place about rule changes that would give officials more freedom in making driver punishments worse. The report continued, moving forward, the officials will need to consider if, in appropriate situations, especially in the case of repeat rule breaking, the penalties to be applied for each rule breaking need to be increased to discourage scenarios such as those that we found today. This is something that we will raise explicitly with the FIA and the officiating team. What are your thoughts on all the situations with the FIA and the officials? Should the rules be even more clear, or should they just be more straightforward in handing out penalties? So, are you Team Alonso or Team FIA on this one? Let me know in the comments down below.